All right, you can say what you want. You can say TNA did it first. You can say the Indies did it first. Make no mistake about it. When it's done in the WWE, it's the place that matters. Why? Because all of those people performing in those locations would love to have that WrestleMania paycheck.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just gonna keep you right where you at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode, Break It Down with Brian H. Brought to you by the Wrestling Realm. You heard the one and only Hypno Beats on the track. Now, let's get started right with our top rope.
Going up to the top rope.
It's time for this week's Top Rope segment of the week.
All right, this week's top rope. History is being made in the WWE, the first ever all-women's pay-per-view. How about that? So, WWE has decided, Stephanie McMahon made a historic announcement. I, for one, was hoping that it was not a women's tag team championship just because there's a lot of women on the roster, but they don't utilize all of them, and it just didn't make sense. Not at the moment where they're doing stables. Maybe if they would have implemented this back in 2015 during the original Women's Revolution, where we would have had like Team Bad, whatever Paige and them team was, and whatever the crazy team was, maybe. But even then, you only had the belt going between three teams. So even then, it wouldn't have made sense. However, now, instead, we didn't get that announcement. Stephanie McMahon came out and announced that we will have an all-women's pay-per-view coming up in October. And they're smart here because this will take place at the Nassau Coliseum in New York. Not a huge arena, but not a small arena either. So it's enough where obviously it's a risk because it's never been done before, but I do think the way they hype it up, they will promote this. Now, I saw a lot of people complaining when they saw the poster because it had Ronda Rousey, Alexa Bliss, and Charlotte on the cover. And what people need to understand, that those are your money makers right now. Sure, they should have diversity, and I'm probably the last person should be talking about this, but I'm just keeping it real. You got to put your money makers on there. And right now, those are the three biggest women in WWE, arguably the three biggest women in professional wrestling. Had this been a few years ago, it would have been somebody else. But nonetheless, all you Sasha Banks stands out there, let's be real, she's not a draw as much as you think she is. So we'll talk about Sasha Banks later. But I'm excited for this all-women's pay-per-view. I think it's going to be good, and I think it's going to be the start to something new. I was talking to my brother Glen earlier, and just to kind of let y'all in a little bit on the conversation, he said, is this the beginning of a all-women's show? Meaning, Monday, SmackDown, or Raw, Tuesday, SmackDown, Wednesday to NXT. I'm all over the place. And maybe Thursday, would it be an all-women show? I don't think so just yet. Just because there's a huge discrepancy when you look at the independent circuit right now. There was a time where the wrestlers on the independent circuit were better than the women's wrestlers in the WWE, but right now it's safe to say WWE has all of the best. I mean, are there some good ones out there? Yes, but you'll be hard to find somebody who's better than Charlotte Flair right now. Who's going to draw more money than Ronda Rousey? You won't find that person. Who's better than Asuka? Nobody. So they have all the major players, something that was not the case in the years of 2012 and 2013. So now I'm going to move on to our tapped out, because as fun as that was, this next part was not fun.
Here's our Tapped Out segment of the week.
All right, so the tapped out this week, ladies and gentlemen, round 3, or dare say round 4 total, but round 3 for this year, and we will get Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. So I've already seen a lot of people said they're boycotting the WWE. A lot of people on Twitter and Facebook not happy, and I don't blame you. We saw this match. It didn't work. Arguably the match at WrestleMania 31 was decent, but the match at WrestleMania 34 just it was okay, but then it was one-sided, and we thought Roman was going to win. Instead, we saw Brock Lesnar win, which shocked everybody. But then he still kept the belt after the Greatest Royal Rumble, and now he's holding the title hostage. And then Bobby Lashley just beat Roman Reigns last week at Extreme Rules. That right there, that match should have been the one that was for the number one contendership for the title. Instead, we get a rematch on Raw after those two essentially went through triple threat matches to earn their way to that spot. And then Roman Reigns gets the better of Lashley. So 1, 2, 3, Roman's the winner, and he will go on to face Lesnar. Can he beat him this time? I sure hope so we can get the belt off of Lesnar. But there's also that wild card of the Money in the Bank. And speaking of Money in the Bank, let's get right into that. So, last night, Kevin Owens went out there and reminded Braun Strowman that he beat him. And, Kurt Angle, he was trying to get Strowman to kind of calm down his anger. So they added Jinder Mahal, and he was going to attempt to, get him mentally stable. Well, you know how that went. But nonetheless, Kevin Owens issued a challenge, and it was accepted. So at SummerSlam, it will be Kevin Owens versus Braun Strowman. And if Kevin Owens wins, he will indeed hold the Money in the Bank briefcase. So, fans, do you think Kevin Owens wins this? I don't think so. But then again, I'm starting to think, does Braun need to win the title that way? I think it would be really cool if Kevin Owens somehow, some way, took the title from Braun Strowman. After all, Owens did say that Strowman could lose the briefcase with losing via disqualification or countout. We all know in the WWE Championship match, or any title for that matter, you can't lose the title that way. But in this case, he can. So if Owens does lose the title that way, it would definitely be, if Braun Strowman loses the briefcase that way, it would definitely be a game changer. And it would be nice to see Kevin Owens cash in on Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns later that night and walk away from New York, the new WWE Universal Champion, the first two-time Universal Champion. Let's not forget, he never got his rematch. So, only time will tell. Let's move on to SmackDown, because this week we finally have a number one contender for the WWE Championship, as Paige came out to announce that we had, she was going to name a number one contender. All of a sudden, Samoa Joe comes in there, beats up AJ Styles, and signed the contract. So, fast forward, this is 2018. Yes, we are getting Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles, two homegrown TNA superstars, two TNA megastars. You can't tell the history of TNA without either one of these guys, and they will be vying for the WWE Championship at the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, arguably, because some people may say it's the Royal Rumble. I'm going to always say SummerSlam, arguably the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Wow, who would have saw that coming? It's too early to call this match, but I can't wait. I want to see what type of footage they're going to use. We have seen them use Impact Wrestling footage before. We have seen them use stuff from the Global Wrestling Network. So I want to see, will WWE tap into that TNA library? So I'm going to take a quick break. I got a word from my man D from the Flex Zone.
This is D from the Flex Zone. Check out Break It Down with Brian Waters. Ooh, yeah, dig it, freak out.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you check out the Flex Zone on WGBR. Recently, the real Dwayne Allen and I joined their host, CEO, co-founder, Andre Melton, also known as Dre. We joined him on In Between the Zone segment, where we discuss, is AJ Styles the greatest of all time? Can we put AJ Styles above Shawn Michaels? You'll want to check out the Flex Zone podcast on YouTube to get an exclusive look at that video. So now let's move on back. We'll stay with SmackDown. So If you maybe checked it out, maybe you haven't. I haven't yet. Maybe I will. I haven't been really into reality TV, but you should know where I'm going. The Miz and Maurice have a new reality show. So on SmackDown, they had their premiere party. The two was parading around a baby all night, because they just had a baby. So the show really takes us through the steps of the pregnancy and just showing behind the scenes. It just really goes to show you how much of a crossover superstar The Miz is. Here's a guy who said that he wanted the main event WrestleMania again. He said this on one of the Table for Threes, and it was a time where Miz was not one of the guys. He was not hot. He was not somebody that you would see being put back in that spot. We all know he main evented WrestleMania 27, which in my opinion, when you look over the past decade, is the worst WrestleMania, but it's not because of the Miz. But nonetheless, they came out there celebrating and bragging, and you know who was in the building. Daniel Bryan. And Bryan came out there, and The Miz just tossed the baby to Daniel Bryan. By then, we knew it was a doll baby. And, he proceeded to beat up Daniel Bryan. So this is getting us right on the path where we need to go for us to get the ultimate climax at SummerSlam, where we will finally get Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, a match 2 years in the making. We remember when Talk Is Smack started, that was the match. Those the two arguing was what we wanted when we first saw this happen. It was like, yes, we need to see Daniel Bryan and The Miz, and I think we're going to get it very soon. So, moving on. James Ellsworth was fired. Pretty much Paige, she fired him. I guess she's done with him. So I want to see what's going to happen with him. Does he have, will the WWE continue to use him? Did they bring him back? Or, I think that he's probably going to be one of those guys they'll plug in when they need him. He'll come back here, come back, go away, come back. I just think that's Ellsworth. He's the new Santino Marella. So, nonetheless, moving on. SmackDown's Women's Championship picture. We have a contender for Carmella, and that is the one and only Becky Lynch. She beat Carmella in a match on SmackDown to earn the #1 contender spot. So I think she gets it done at SummerSlam. I think Carmella's time, it's time to wind this thing down. We'll hit the reset button, but I think that Becky Lynch will indeed be successful. So on the Raw. So we know Ronda Rousey, as far as the Raw women's picture is concerned, women's title picture is concerned, Ronda Rousey will be off suspension this coming Monday. But there's Sasha and there's Bayley. So if you've been paying attention to this show week in and week out, I've been saying that this is coming to a clash soon. Well, last night on Raw, or if you're listening, or this past Monday on Raw, we saw Sasha and Bayley team up to go against two jobbers. So I said, okay, either they lose to the jobbers, but then it would make sense for them to lose to the jobbers because that means you have to keep them around and put them on payroll, or they'll win and they'll just drag the storyline out. Well, guess what happened? They won, and they proceeded to hug each other and explain to each other how much they love each other, and it was all just a misunderstanding. We have quite a few weeks leading into SummerSlam, and I think it's going to come to a clash very soon. I think that Sasha and Becky will eventually start, beating the smack out of each other, and we will get that match finally. So, who knows? I'm going to go ahead and take a break. Got a word from my man Glenn coming up.
This is Glen Thomas with the Wrestling Marks of Excellence, and you're listening to Break It Down with Brian H. Waters, brought to you by The Wrestling Realm.
And I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. That was Glen Thomas of Fox Sports Radio 1340. He's the sports director there. He's also the host of Wrestling Marks of Excellence. Make sure you check out him and Corey. They just went through 1997. But they went and reviewed. So they did part 1, part 2. It's all on YouTube. So make sure you check out. I believe part 3 is coming up. So I can't wait. I want to hear, because they're going to get into the Montreal Screwjob and where that took us from there. So make sure you check it out. I always bring great content each and every week. So, Randy Keith Orton. If you watched SmackDown last week and you watched Extreme Rules, we're left with a lot of questions. And this week he answered them, and he just pretty much just said the reason that, he's been letting people eat these past over 10 years. And just because he doesn't come out with a new T-shirt just to take people's money doesn't mean, he's not the Viper. Just because he remind people he's showing up every week. He's showing up not just around WrestleMania, just for a payday, but he's here, and yet people, he's kind of overlooked. So I just have to say I love this Randy Orton. Finally, this is the guy. Randy Orton is just one of those people who just doesn't pull off being a babyface well. Sometimes, maybe when he was going against Triple H, when he first became a face back in 2004, when he just won the WWE, the World Heavyweight Championship. But now, no. He needs to be a heel. He could be the best heel in the company. What he did to Jeff Hardy last week was absolutely cringeworthy, and he's made it known that he's coming for Jeff Hardy. So I think we get this match at SummerSlam. It'll be good. Clearly, it'll be better than him facing Brock Lesnar when he literally got beat to a just a bloody pulp. So I don't think that'll happen when he faces Jeff Hardy, but we'll reserve to see. I won't mention who's going to win that one just yet. So, and is Rusev Day, is it almost over? Or perhaps will there be new people celebrating? We saw Cien Almas take on Rusev, great match, but then Lana and Zelina Vega got into it, which led to Aiden English coming out trying to save face. Instead, he got in the way, caused Lana to get knocked down, which naturally Rusev was going to check on his wife. And then that led to him losing. 1, 2, 3. And Rusev basically said you would think, okay, he's going to pair with his wife. He's going to kick out Aiden English. But he said, you know what, I'm tired of both of you. Maybe neither one of you deserve Rusev Day. I certainly don't want to see Aiden English leave him. I think this has been the best thing for Aiden English because, quite frankly, I haven't cared about anything he's done. But now you put him in this position. I'm like, okay, you know what? This makes sense. I like Aiden English. This is exactly what he should be doing, singing for Rusev. So only time will tell what happens here. So I'm going to take another quick break. Probably my last break of the evening. And then I'm going to talk some Impact Wrestling. I got a word from one of Impact Wrestling's biggest fans.
What up, what up? This your boy TW at TW Talking About on Twitter. And what I need everybody out there to do right now is sit down, zip your lip, and listen good. You just might learn something. You're listening to Break It Down with Brian H.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was my man Terrence talking about wrestling. Make sure you check out his podcast. They switched over to Podbean, so make sure you follow him at TW Talking About. So, Impact Wrestling Slammiversary 16. What a night. I have always watched Impact, but I never really got invested into it. I would tune in, tune out, see if there's people I know on there, be happy for them. But then I was like, I'm not watching this. But now they got my attention. It's been a better product than it's been in a long time. And Slammiversary was a reflection of that. So a couple matches I'm going to talk about. Pentagon Jr. taking on Sami Callihan. Hair versus mask match. Pentagon Jr. putting a mask on the line. Sami Callihan putting his hair on the line. Two beat each other up all over the place, but it was Pentagon Jr. coming with the victory, and then he went to shave Sami Callihan's hair, and when we saw Sami Callihan look like he was going to just go ahead and accept his punishment, no, that did not happen. Instead, OVE came out, and Ohio versus everything, and they started beating up Pentagon, so we thought Callihan was going to get away. But he was met by some of the Pentagon's goons, and then we saw Sami Callihan get his head shaved. Wow. So, but nonetheless, that was a good match. Su Yung continues to just go to different levels. You may remember a long time ago, she was in the WWE as a ring announcer. Then she, went on, left, or got cut, and made her name for herself around the Indies. She was former WSU Spirit champion, but now she's the Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion, and she defeated Madison Rayne in an incredible match. Make sure you check that out, and then proceeded to put Madison Rayne in a coffin. And then the match of the night, the X Division Championship match, where Brian Cage defeated the one, the only Matt Sydal in an incredible match. Make sure you check that out. Like I said, that was the match of the night. We saw, I almost called him Evan Bourne. Matt Sydal gave it everything he had to retain the title, but he got caught slipping, and Brian Cage took advantage of it and pinned him 1, 2, 3. Now, for all that, we had a main event. Moose taking on Austin Aries. And I have to say, the match was an absolute letdown. Moose just not ready. He's not ready for the big time. He's not ready to be the face of Impact Wrestling. So that was that. I know a lot of people may disagree. Nonetheless, go ahead. But guess what? It's time for Wrestling for the Culture.
It's time for Wrestling for the Culture, where we take a look inside to see what the wrestlers of color have been doing this week.
So, Wrestling for the Culture this week, presented by thebrianhwaters.com. Make sure you get on there and make your purchases from Amazon, where you can help support the show. So, this week, we saw quite a few wrestlers respond to the Immortal and Hulk Hogan. You can go on the website thebrianhwaters to check it out. Let me know what you think. I'm not getting into that because I've spoken enough about that subject. Mae Young Classic is returning. Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez, Kavita Devi, all returning this year. They was there last year. This year they're going to look to go further. It's too early for me to make a call. I'm waiting to see who are the full participants. So I'm not going to make a prediction. The Performance Center adds some culture to it as the NXT just signed Lacey Lane, MJ Jenkins, and Keith Lee. Shout out to my boy Desmond Xavier making his debut in a win this last week at Lucha Underground. He defeated former WWE Tag Team Champion Paul London in a match where he received the final Gift of the God medallion, where next week he'll have a shot to become the #1 contender for the Gift of the Gods Championship. We also saw the Mac take on, he won the match they had this past week, and because he won, he got to kick out one of the competitors. Make sure you go into thebrianhwaters.com to see which competitor did he get to check out. New school prevails at Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary as Ortiz and Santana, the new school version of LAX, defeated the OGs, Hernandez and Homicide, in a brutal 51-50 street fight. So they are still your Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions. And if you've been paying attention to MLW, you may know that there is a brand new MLW Heavyweight Champion, and his name is Low Key. So him winning, not only did he become the champion, but he also received a $60,000 bounty prize set by Selena De La Renta, who anybody who beats Shane Strickland for the belt would get that cash. And then last but not least, Zuka King continues to rack up the gold as him and his group, the Equal Nation Demonstration, continues to climb the ladder of success, adding much more gold this weekend. That news brought to you by Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram. So now it's your favorite part of the show. It's time for your questions of the week. And now for our From the Realm segment, where I answer your questions from the Facebook fan page, the Facebook group page, and the Twitter at Wrestling Realm. All right, so questions this week. Starting off with Jaleesa. We can find her at amazing_J2698. Question is, what do you think of the Women's Evolution pay-per-view? I think it's great. I think it's best for business. It was time. Go ahead. Clearly, there's been rumblings about one day the women's wrestlers main event in WrestleMania. So before you do that, let's see if they can hold their own pay-per-view. Obviously, WrestleMania being a big show. Personally, I would like to see the main event Survivor Series first. I don't know if this is the year to do it, but that's what I would like to see, Survivor Series, and then move on to WrestleMania. We've already seen a main event, the Royal Rumble, but that was a Royal Rumble match, so that's different than, say, a one-on-one match where you're essentially building the entire show for. So I think it's great. We got the Shark, Shawn Williams. Does Adam Cole win the NXT title before going to the main roster? So Adam Cole, I think yes, just because he's somebody who can kind of get in NXT that steam it once had. I don't think there's a rush to put Adam Cole on the main roster. He's still young. Clearly, we got to go through Ciampa and Gargano. They got to have their series of matches for the title. But before, and then afterwards, I think you give the title to Adam Cole. He doesn't, I don't think he wins the North American title, loses that, and goes to the main roster. Could be wrong, but I would like to see him win the NXT Championship. I think he's somebody who could literally be the Grand Slam champion. I think when his career is said and done, they'll look back and say he was a North American champion, NXT Tag Champion, NXT Champion, WWE Champion, WWE Tag Team Champion, and Intercontinental Champion, and US Championship champion. So, but no, I don't think he. I do think he wins the title. And last question from Shark: what is your opinion of 205 Live now compared to 1 year ago? It's obviously much better. We just saw it in this past Tuesday that Gulak is the #1 contender for the title. I think he's the one to dethrone Cedric Alexander. But overall, they're letting these guys go. I've been able to see a different side of guys like Buddy Murphy better, and Mustafa Ali, sides I probably wouldn't have paid much attention to. So I think this has just been it's been a great show. I make sure usually when I'm recording the show, I'm watching it in the background, so even without the commentary on, I'm still invested. And then the last question this week comes from Octavio Martinez Jr., and his question is: after hearing the WWE announce an all-women's show called WWE Evolution based on the WWE's Women's Revolution, do you think that the Netflix series of Glow is one of the reasons the pay-per-view is happening? It could be. I don't think it's the main reason, but I think it's definitely had its influence. I think because Glow has been a success enough for us to have 2 seasons of it, I think they're really starting to see more of the value in women's wrestling, and I think there's more of a demographic of people who watch Glow. Well, WWE's hoping to get some of them to watch their show, so I think it makes sense. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this week's show. Thank you for joining. Make sure you tweet me at Brian H. Waters. Make sure you like my fan page, as well as follow the Wrestling Realm at Wrestling Realm. Make sure you are locked and loaded in, as this weekend the real Dwayne Allen and I will be at BlurredCon. So make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter and our Insta stories, because we will be definitely hitting you up with a lot of content. When the realness and the main event get together, it's all the way to the bank. So long, everybody.